in Facebook, New York, and I work in the core serving infra, the ads core serving infra. So in a very high level, it's basically matching the user with the ads, that we show on Facebook. And it's a very incredibly complex stack. We do machine learning and complex index lookups uh, in a very short time budget. And primarily the area that I work in is retrieval from index, from the ads index. And yeah, that's a little bit in a nutshell what I work on.
Okay, great. So I think this looks quite interesting. As in, I'm sure a lot of people want to work with Facebook, and a lot of people want to understand what exactly happens inside the role that you're working for. So if I talk about your journey from let's say when you were in your college studying your engineering, from there to where you have reached now. So what exactly maybe the steps that you have taken in a broader sense?
Yeah, I guess I was always interested in computer science because I had taken computers in my 11th and 12th, and I was very interested in C++ and coding. So it wasn't like, I wasn't I've seen a lot of people who join this field simply because the opportunities are great, the money is good. But I always wanted to be in CS because I found the problems to be interesting to solve. And I've been doing these kind of problems like from a young age. Like everybody gets into programming, at least was interested in because of gaming, like computer games. I was very much interested into computer games, and that's how I got interested into computer programming. And eventually, I took computer science in college. And it's in college, yeah, the interest was always there. So it was very easy for me to honestly, be excited about college and be excited about the courses being taught in college. I will say, like, the computer industry, like when it comes to hiring, isn't like the best because, everyone focuses on solving these problems, like these coding problems, which are all over the internet. And I believe, like, while that is an okay bar to filter candidates, it's not like a great bar to like make hiring decisions on. So yeah, I pretty much had to practice that part of the interviewing aspect, which is solving problems, uh, looking at questions that are asked in companies, across the companies. Lead code is a perfect example. Actually, I did a lot of lead code.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you have to just give interviews. I know I was in the very beginning, like I did get campus placement at the start. So I guess I didn't have a lot of struggle then. But after coming to the US and doing my master's, I definitely have had to, interview quite a bit. And I was quite afraid at the beginning. But as I started interviewing even more and more, it almost became like a game for me. And just like that, the interviews just started becoming easy. And I was able to get like multiple offers, and I was able to really pick and choose where I wanted to go. I was able to, even negotiate. So it really, like people say, oh, it's like, 50% hard work and 50% luck. And I really believe it's like almost 100% hard work. And what happens is when you, keep doing something repetitively, what happens is that probability, which is what people say luck, the odds start turning in your favor.
Yeah.
So that's really what happened to me, I feel.
I think that's a wonderful journey. So if maybe I can quickly summarize it in a few sentences. So first, people should be solving problems, a lot of problems on platforms like LeetCode. And once they've done that, maybe they have to appear for a lot of such interviews, because that kind of makes you more and more comfortable with the interview process. Great. So now that you are there, you are already working. So what exactly does your work week? Maybe you know, if you so when you go to office, so nowadays, so you obviously log in, through work from home. So when you log in into a computer till, let's say, you shut your computer down. So what exactly does happens? Because that is the thing that typically people don't have information about.
Sure. I have to give a little bit of a vague answer here because I can't give like the exact answer without
Right.
going into too much, company details. But yeah, from when I log into a computer, I pretty much like basically when I wake up, I kind of look at some of our experimentation results. So we do run a lot of experiments and stuff like that on users. And an example is, and when I say experiments, like people get scared, but it's really like, testing a certain code path with maybe like 1% of the users. That's like some sort of testing that we do. And in the very morning, that's what I look at, these results. And I see, is there any significant change? Is this like a positive change, negative change, stuff like that. And then once I did that, I actually start planning for the day what I'm going to do, because sometimes your priorities change. And I can tell you, a company like Facebook is not like any other company that anyone has worked at. So I have worked at, Amazon, I've worked at Bloomberg, I've worked at eBay, PayPal. So I can tell you, like, Facebook is one of the most unique companies I've ever worked with. It's really not about, I would say, as much engineering quality and what complexity of work you're doing. At the end of the day, you need to show impact. You need to show like the work you've done has some impact, on the world, which could mean, more engagement. It could mean more revenue, whatever. So, based on the results, like what I do is I prioritize my day. I prioritize the tasks in my day. I see if I have to run some new experiments. I think about some of my other work, which is, try to improve the, what do you say, like our platform, or try to, help onboard some of our newer engineers. Uh, a lot of times I help my manager with recruiting as well, which could mean anything like, taking interviews to all the way actually sitting down with a potential candidate and explaining them, what work we do, pretty much like this.
Yeah.
And also, like, I would say a good amount of time is spent coding. Like I like coding. I like, like I said, solving complex challenges, and a lot of the challenges we solve is through code. So yeah, I would say like around 50% of my day. I try, at least that's my target, to like spend 50% of my day coding.
Okay. So one thing, which is what is like extremely important for the job seekers. Okay. And that is the career path. As in, if let's say somebody lands up at a role like yours, then how exactly does his career path is, as in, if he, so how does he progress through either in the same organization, or maybe if let's say switches from this organization to a different organization, although in the same role. So how does he progresses through in his entire career?
Sure. So I think both ways that we mentioned is valid. Like, some people like to stay with the company and progress within the company. Some people like to, jump companies. So I don't particularly have any kind of affinity to any one such way. So I can really speak about, like, when I was in PayPal, which was my first job out of college. I didn't really have the best manager, I would say, and I didn't really have any complex problems that I felt I was solving. And it was really out of boredom, I would say, that I decided to get my master's, because I really wanted to, learn something new. Like, everybody wants to learn something new on their job, and when that doesn't happen, it's pretty much time to move on, in my opinion. So that's why I came to do my master's. I really never thought that, getting your master's in the US can actually open so many doors. I get, one of my experiences in giving interviews in India and in US is definitely it's a little bit easier in the US. It might sound surprising to people, like the competition to get, for those same jobs in India is much, much, much higher. And I would say the bar is also pretty high compared to like the US. And yeah, once I got my master's, I worked at Bloomberg, where I actually got an internship and then I converted full time. But eventually, what happened at Bloomberg was I felt like there was nothing really new to learn. I spent 3 years at the company. And while, of course, there must be something new in some part of the company, I just didn't feel like I was being challenged enough, or I was no disrespect to like any of my former colleagues, but I just felt like the ambition within the company wasn't like on par with companies like Google and Facebook, like the FANG companies, basically. So, I moved to Amazon, AWS with my manager. So my manager moved to AWS, and then she asked me to come join her at AWS, and that's why I moved to AWS. And yeah, Amazon is, like I particularly felt AWS, maybe not Amazon.com, but AWS was just amazing to work in. Working with cloud infrastructure and massive scale of compute is very exciting to me. I was learning so much more than I ever thought, at least more than I feel like in Bloomberg. And eventually, we were working on a product launch called AWS Data Exchange, and we ended up launching the product. And I was obviously happy. And before I joined Amazon, I already had the Facebook offer. So I decided to, like, once the product was launched, I thought maybe it's a good time to now move on to an even more challenging role, which is Facebook. And I can definitely tell you, like, Facebook is one of the most challenging, like, role companies that anybody can get to work in. It's extremely fast paced. It's extremely bottom driven, as in every initiative taken in the companies, like by engineers. You don't get work. You have to come up with ideas and implement those ideas yourself. So the work load is a little bit higher in Facebook, but it depends on the engineer, like how good you are in distributing that load. Like a lot of times, at least I do this mistake of taking too much work on, which is a naive mistake. You have to plan your work, and yeah, that's pretty much my journey. That's how I ended up in Facebook. And the reason I chose this team, the ad score serving info team, is because it sounded like a challenging team. And I have this like goal plan, basically. Like I feel like until the age I have a family or something, I should keep challenging myself. I should keep pushing myself, and no matter how difficult it gets, I could get fired, I could get laid off, whatever, but I should keep challenging myself until I reach that point where I have a family and I have to support my family and I have to take the safe choice. So yeah, that's why I am where I am, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful answer, because somewhere, unsettling oneself is something which is extremely important, at least at the start of the career.
Yeah.
So, like, any specific, uh, uh, memory or experience that you have, which maybe you would want to share, and you think has been a turning point, or has been very, very crucial with respect to your entire career journey so far? I'm sure because the way you mentioned that you have worked in PayPal, you've worked in Bloomberg for some time, in AWS for some time, and Facebook now. So did you have like any specific point which you think is quite interesting, or it's quite important for maybe the viewers to know?
Yeah, I would say, like, in one of the things that gets overlooked in today's world of software is relationships. Like, people often think, like, oh, I'll just lead code, and I can get into that company, and I can get into that company. And I think there is validity in the point. That's how the industry has become. Like, people jump every 2-3 years, companies, because they want more money, and they want like an upper level. But I definitely feel like, one of the most underrated things is relationships. Like, even though I worked at Bloomberg, for a short time, just 3 years, but I built like some amazing relationships with my managers, my manager's manager. And it was because of them who they basically wanted me to move to AWS. And so I was studying for, the interview of Amazon. And I decided like maybe if I'm just studying for interviews, I might as well apply like in 2 or 3 companies or more. So eventually, like that's how I got a Facebook offer as well. So, and my managers, they helped me so much. To prepare for these interviews. They told me like what kind of questions you can expect when it comes to like behavioral interviews, because that's what managers do a lot. So there was a lot of guidance, I would say. And I'm pretty sure like if I continued to work under them, I would have probably reached a very high level. And that's one of the things that I take away from my past experiences is, with in software, which things are changing so rapidly. Building that relationship is very, very crucial. And once you build that relationship, you can really accelerate your growth within the company.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, one last question that we have here is that what is the single most important tip that you would want to give to people who want to start a career in the profile you're working?
I would definitely say like hard work. Like I said, a lot of people say it's hard work and luck, hard work and luck. And I just I used to like study for interviews on weekends. I used to actually go to my office and study in the office for interviews, because studying at home, you have like all these sorts of distractions, right? You have like gaming, PC, TV, all these things. So I didn't want to like get caught by those distractions. So I used to actually go to office on the weekends when obviously the office was empty, and I used to study for interviews there. And what I have in my experience was it was just hard work. I just kept doing it again and again, repetitions, and just giving interviews more and more and more. And eventually, what, people just ask the same questions too across the industry. You will eventually come across questions that you have practiced before. And that's how you kind of turn your luck around. So that's the one thing I would tell people is just keep at it, don't quit, just keep doing it again and again and again. I know it took me a year and a half to like get to be where I am, like to study and prepare myself to be where I am. So it can take even longer. It can take me 2 years, 3 years, but it's going to come eventually. Like eventually your luck will change, and it'll change because of that hard work.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's quite an inspirational journey, because hard work is something which is often like forgotten around, because people talk about so many qualities, so many things that somewhere people in that process they forget that hardware is something which is underlying. It has to be there. It has to be at the back of everything that we are doing, and then only we can probably change things. So this was a wonderful conversation, Tushar. I'm sure the listeners, the viewers would be able to take a cue of one or two cues from this conversation, and I'm sure it will help them a lot with their journey of looking, or getting into a specific career like yours. Thanks, Tushar.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. It was fun talking to you.
Thanks, Tushar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.